wish teachers would promote that more, and more of the professional accreditations rather than getting into a debt cycle with advanced degrees and then still having to kind of start from scratch. I knew I needed to set myself apart. And I'm also going to say, as a woman in a man's industry, I really, really needed to set myself apart, because not a lot of women are attracted to roofing, and so there's not a lot of people like me. And so when I look different, I got questioned a little more. I knew I really needed to stand out, and I wanted to. Also, the construction process is incredibly complicated, and there's a lot of liabilities. You really, really have to understand whether you're going to do sales or whatever you're going to do, sustainable development in whatever way. You really need to understand the construction process. And so I knew if I got the CDT, construction document technologist, that would help. And it did. So first of all, it was incredibly difficult, but I persevered and I got it. The company paid for it. It helped me understand what we were all doing here. But it also opened so many doors for me, because what I needed to do was sell products to architects, and they won't even give me an appointment if they think I don't know what I'm talking about. They're not going to waste their time. So having those 3 letters behind my name, it helped with my career advancement. The only thing it didn't help with was what I really wanted to do, which was green roofing specifically. And that's what led me to the GRP. And I was one of the very first, I may have been the second year or third year or something. I was one of the very first to get the GRP after they had created it. And that's the Green Roof Professional Accreditation through Green Roofs for Healthy Cities. And that, to this day, has been more beneficial than probably even my college degree, if I'm going to say that, for my very unique specialty, right? There's no amount of advanced degrees I could have gotten that would have given me everything this very specific accreditation gave me, like a laser. I know there's accreditations all over sustainability, not just GRP. There's LEED. I had that at one point, the Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design, and a number of other ones. But for what I do, and I'm on the corporate side, whether you're on the installer side, you're the plant nursery grower, you're the building owner, facility manager, any part of on-structure vegetation. I'm not even going to say green roofing, but amenity spaces. They're everywhere all over the planet now. People are using their roofs. Having that GRP just gives you the full spectrum, from the design to the installation to the maintenance, the waterproofing in plants. So yeah, I'm a huge fan. And I'm such a fan that years later, I ended up joining the board of directors for Green Roofs for Healthy Cities. And now I'm their chair of the GRP committee. So I get to work with the folks who are going through it. And I'm obviously a big promoter.
But what specific occupation, job titles and industries are best served by the GRP credential?
So as far as, there's a lot. So supplier manufacturer. So any part of the green roof systems, whether it's waterproofing and sealants and roofing, whether it's the plants, the drain boards, the plastics, there are so many supplies that go into this. So there's the supply side, you work with the manufacturer or supplier. There's the design side. So it touches on folks who are working with, or who are architects, landscape architects, or more likely unlicensed designers who really need to understand how to work with these systems. It's also good for, there's so many areas. I'm just trying to think of all the GRPs that I know and what their backgrounds are. It's really good for municipalities that are doing green roof mandates. They really need somebody who has their GRP on staff. So many cities have mandates for green roofs now, which is why it's such a booming job market, because they manage the stormwater and they save taxpayer dollars. They save flooding, combined sewer overflows into sensitive wetlands. The cities are now mandating or incentivizing green roofs. And so, I mean, pretty much every major city in North America now, except for the deserts. And so working for a municipality as a GRP. Also, the folks that maintain those buildings. So everything we're talking about is the initial point to get the green roof on. Well, those things last for decades, hopefully, if you do it right, they'll last for many decades because they preserve the waterproofing underneath them, but they have to be maintained or they can be a disaster of a failure. So there are all kinds of either maintenance roles, including the installers who install them are usually the long-term maintenance. But then there's also the facilities managers. So you have a whole college campus or a hospital campus, and you've got green roofs all over the place, or one really big showpiece. You really need to understand how to maintain them, what they even are, what you're working with. So from the facilities management building owner side, and then finally the nonprofit side. So not only Green Roofs for Healthy Cities, there's also the Green Roof Think Tank. There's also so many overlapping sister nonprofits that are working on the same goals, like the Audubon Society, like solar photovoltaic state organizations like Solar Oregon, because solar panels don't work very well on hot roofs. So now increasingly solar panels are being put over green roofs. So those sister nonprofit organizations also need people who understand these incredibly complex integrated systems. So the ecology groups. And so those are, and then of course, academia. A lot of the GRPs that I know are from Colorado State University, Portland State University, one I believe in Singapore, that are specifically studying these systems, and there's no college degree for it. So they're coming through to supplement and potentially getting class credits for their college studies as well.
Well, when I was going through your website, I noticed all the roles, and I thought, wow, that's a list of so many different disciplines. And you went through a bunch of them just now. But I just wanted to say you listed promotional, conceptual, specification via procurement, installation and maintenance, architecture, landscape designers, contractors, and building owners. And I thought, that sounds like many different hats and many different jobs right there, and pulling together and finessing teams of people. So I just wanted to acknowledge that, because it seemed to draw on many disciplines in secondary education and tertiary. If teachers wanted to expose their students, they could find ways, there would be a link. It's not just something that a student studying the environment would be interested in. It could be if they're studying math, or they're learning about procurement like some high schools have career and technical education, for example. And so the students go in these different tracks. And my point is just a comment, which is that seeing that list made me think it really is relevant to teachers across many subject areas.
Well, that's what's so interesting about it, because it is an incredibly interdisciplinary technology. And that's what makes it so fun. There's so many different groups. You're sitting at the same table together, but you need engineers to be able to calculate the stormwater runoff coefficient and the wind uplift resistance. And you need a very interdisciplinary team that understands what these crazy things really are. And that's why, again, I'm such a huge fan, because architects who go through their entire licensure program get something like 1 to 3 hours of roofing, and that's it. There's no way to learn this, without doing an interdisciplinary, laser focused accreditation program. So it crosses everything.
Okay, super helpful to hear that. And then I was going to ask you about solar photovoltaics versus green roofs. And then you answered that question by saying increasingly they're integrated, because the roofs are too hot often for solar. So you have the green roof that, is a good stormwater management technique, and it also cools the roof. And then it sounds like increasingly people are putting the PV over that. So it isn't an either or. Is that an accurate understanding?
Yeah. So actually, if I can share my screen, I can show you a couple pictures that I have of that. And so this is actually a beautiful new development over the past decade or so. Let's see if I can figure this thing out. Okay. Do you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
This is just okay. So Portland State University is actually one of the leading researchers. There's also a number of others across the planet for photovoltaics, rooftop photovoltaic panels. Rooftops are the hottest part of the city. Okay, look at this picture on the right. The white is the hottest part. It's the rooftops. It's hotter than asphalt, pavement, anything. And so wait a second. When the roofs get hot, when solar panels are hot, okay, so take a 90-degree day. That's Fahrenheit. That's what the day you're going to really need your rooftop HVAC system, right? Well, that exposed roofing, if it doesn't have a green roof on it, is a heat sink. So it can be up to 200 degrees up there. Even a cool roof is like 120 degrees. So you're taking that in, it just gets hotter and hotter, basically. You put the solar panels over that. Once they get above, I think it's something like 75 degrees, their efficiency tanks. So the days you really need that alternative energy, they don't work. So cities increasingly are not making, when they do mandates, they're not making people choose between green roofs and solar. They say, if you're going to do solar, let's make it work. You have to do a green roof under it. So Portland, well, you don't have to. So Portland, Oregon, for example, said they have a mandate. Everybody in Central City over net 20,000 square feet has to do a green roof. If you want to do solar panels, you do the solar panels over the roof, and you can get benefits and credits for that too. So anyway, this is a major kind of revolution where we're increasingly seeing these hybrid systems. And they're everywhere. There's all different ways to do it. They're so cool.
That answers that question. So happy to hear that. It's not a either or. It can be a both.
In fact, I don't think I have the picture in my slideshow here. So Jen Busolo from Colorado State University is doing amazing studies on this. Also, Alyssa Starry from Portland State. There's actually this whole other benefit because plants, they're a little bit shaded under the panels, so they thrive even more, which means they're breathing in more stormwater and breathing it out, which means they're creating more of a cooling effect. So you're cooling the building, you're cooling the HVAC system. The roof temperature never gets hotter than about 10 degrees above ambient temperature. So on a 90-degree day, it's going to be maybe 95 or 100 degrees. It's probably going to be cooler if it just has been watered. Now your HVAC system is pulling in 100-degree cooler air. Now it needs less of the solar panel energy to get to net zero. You see what I mean? So the plants are using less water. You can use more of a diversity of plants because they have some shade, which you don't normally have in rooftop conditions. Now you can potentially grow food under it, and it becomes this compounding co-creation.
What problems does this credential help you solve in your current role or field?
Okay, so the biggest thing that this credential helps me solve in my current role is that I'm a consultant. People are looking to me for answers, and I need them to know I really, really know my stuff. I don't think I would be able to get appointments. I don't think people would be calling me if they knew anything about green roofing and I didn't have that accreditation. Green roofs are really cool systems. People tend to fall in love with them. There's a million people who are like, oh, I want to be a green roofer. I'm going to go do it. But they just don't really know. They're kind of bumbling around. You can do more harm than good, right? The other thing it really helps me with is that there's all these benefits you get. Actually, let me share my screen again. I put a slide together for you guys on this. One of the benefits is that you get into a directory. And when people are looking for this crazy specialty green roofing, and the first place they go to is that green roof directory. And I have gotten multiple job opportunities because I'm listed in the GRP directory. And so when you get the accreditation, it costs about $1,000. And this includes everything. So it includes all three major tracks, which is the roof, the design and installation, waterproofing and drainage, plants and growing media. And so that covers everything from like the construction process, the supply, the design, I mean, like everything you can imagine. So you get all of that, you get all your training books, but then you get a year. So you get listed in the GRP manual. What is not a manual? It's a database search. I'm not thinking of the right word right now. Anyway, you know what I mean. And you also get a year free membership of Green Roofs for Healthy Cities included in that, which opens the door to a huge amount of networking, access to events, a lot of free education, basically discounted on a lot of things. So all of those benefits come into that accreditation program, and I do definitely make use of all of them.
Well, I did have two related questions. And one is the expansion of this concept globally? I'm sure there are places where there is emphasis on green roofs, but I wondered what opportunities specifically you might be seeing for students and the teachers to introduce their students to this career path in other places, like where Ophelia is in sub-Saharan Africa or elsewhere.
Well, it is, it's funny, the United States is actually pretty far behind a lot of parts of Asia, especially like Singapore, China, Taiwan, in Taipei, and Western Europe, and also a lot of the Middle East. They've actually been doing this a lot longer, making use of their limited urban area, by making use of the rooftop space and for stormwater management. And also Germany was one of the hot spots of where green roofs started and have been employed for hundreds of years. And that was more of a fire break. They're actually fire protection. Wow. So there is a very healthy green roof market spreading across the planet. The US, like I said, was kind of later to the game to figure this stuff out. Really only in the past 10 or 15 years, maybe up to 20. And I do see more and more, as we are a global community sharing information and knowledge, that this is going to be increasingly employed for, especially, we're seeing what happens when the supply chains get messed up. Mm. My goodness, there's a virus. I can't go to the grocery store because I don't know if I'm, the trucks stop running. When you have millions upon millions of people in a city with no access to food, and increasingly, for example, Detroit, Brooklyn, they're doing this out of necessity of closing the food gap. You can grow a huge amount of food in a very small space on the roof. So not just for stormwater, but for food access in dense urban areas. I see that as a major growth area in places where it hasn't really shown up before. So I do see it spreading across the planet. And one really cool resource is greenroofs.com. And I just love them. It's Aramis and Linda Velasquez. They have a database that they've put together for like 20 years now, something like that, of every green roof they can find on the planet, all the details. And so you can go in, you don't see them because they're on the roofs. You don't know about them as much, the park space, but you can go into that database and type in any city on the planet and see all the green roofs that are there, and really get a sense of how expansive it really is as a technology.
I'm going to just dive in with one more question, and that is that I noticed in the accreditation process for the GRP, and maybe it was also for one of the other designations, that teachers could earn CEUs. And that seems, the more we talk with teachers and administrators, it seems really important because teachers are so time-strapped. And, they, like all of us, and they, at the same time, need to maintain their licensing, especially at the secondary level and in the community colleges, not always in the higher education sector. And so it's nice for them when courses can be part of authorized CEU catalogs. Like if you take this course, it'll apply towards your CEUs. So I wondered if you could say a little bit more about teachers earning the GRP and how those CEUs work. And then it would even help us to know more about how CEUs work, because we would like teachers to be able to earn CEUs for our Green Skills Education accreditation course as well. In the beginning, it'll just be an informal certificate, but it would be like feeding two birds with one hand to learn this from you.
I love that. Feeding two birds with one hand. So this is actually another really great benefit. I need to go back and confirm this with the team, but I'm pretty sure that every credit hour of the GRP crosses over to a number of other continuing education learning units. One of the big ones is the American Institute of Architects. A lot of what the American Institute of Architects will accept is transferable across many different organizations. So specifically for teachers, I would have to follow up with you on that. The Green Roofs for Healthy Cities team, I should know that, but the Green Roofs for Healthy Cities team will is always keeping those different accreditations up. It also works for like landscape architects, building envelope consultants, USGBC. So it would need to be confirmed that it would also count for the teacher's licensure, whether or not that those would be accepted for their accreditation program. But it's very important to the organization, and all of the events that we do too usually count to keep up your licensure. That also helps because when you're going for other things, for example, I'm going for another accreditation right now, registered roofing consultant, which is like an extraordinarily high bar. I need to show that I've been through tons of CEUs. So everything that I've done with GRP, I instantly have, 30, 40 credit hours towards the 70 that I need to get for this thing. So there is a lot of crossover.
Mm-hmm. It does seem as though for a teacher that level of rigor that you gained and gave to the GRP and to the RRC may be a little bit too specialized for a teacher who's mainly trying to introduce their students to ways they can make a difference, career paths, and help them see, hey, you feel like you're learning math and it doesn't apply, but look how it would apply here. Or you're learning, physics, look how it would apply here, and to help them sort of see. So that would be interesting to hear from you over time as well, if we can keep in touch. Hey, we have this more general track to help teachers understand how to guide their students in the different subject areas to see how the green roof world makes use of their talents and skills, which is kind of a little bit of a different angle than learning all those numbers that you told me engineers do.
Yeah.
Maybe that would be a module in the engineering segment in college.
Right.
But,
well, it is extremely specialized, very, very highly specialized. And I would say you don't necessarily have to go through the whole thing and take the exam and put all the time and money into that to get the benefits. You could take a slice of the classes, and still get the CEUs, but not necessarily try to keep up the accreditation and everything. Like, for example, stormwater runoff coefficient calculations, which I don't even think they do that in there. That's an engineering thing, but it gives you the setup of what you need to know. So,
okay, excellent.
I will check with the Green Roofs for Healthy Cities, because I know they're doing this thing, the Regional Academic Center program, where they're working with a lot of universities. They're working with a lot of students and teachers. They're integrating a lot of crossover, giving credit hours for classes. And I'm sure I heard them talking about what you're talking about, like something separately for educators. So let me check on that, and I'll follow up with you if there is something and I'm just not up to date on that.
Good. Ideally, a role that we can help play, collaborating with others, is helping teachers see these pathways and understand the linkages with what they're teaching, and take these kind of theoretical ideas like regenerative practice and sustainability and translate it to more practical next steps for their students. I'm teaching a class right now at University North Carolina Greensboro, and it's online, and it's 15 students learning sustainable campus operations. And the students are asking, where's the job? This is all very interesting. Where's the job? They want to understand the career pathway. And it's not that they love the environment, but they're not, they don't have a trust fund.
Yeah.
They need a practical application, and they want to understand that pathway, and they want to do something they love to do. They don't want to just go into a career because, they feel pressure to do so, or that's the right fit with their subject. They're looking for something that gives them meaning and purpose, is the sense that I get. So that's where I'm hoping we can be a little bit of a broker, where teachers will help their students see possibility. And instead of feeling gloom and doom about, say, climate change, which, it's a very serious topic, we're not trying to make light of it, but to convert that more into a positive sense of making a difference. And right now, a lot of the teachers are saying, there was a study of 58,000 teachers conducted by the UN And the majority said they're starting to understand the climate change science, but they don't really see what the solutions are, and particularly for their students. Well, here you are painting a very vivid picture of that. So how do we help, connect those dots? We're not the only group, but that, that's just a little background and a question for you.
Well, I would love to, I'm committee chair for the GRP in Green Roofs for Healthy Cities, co-chair with the Emerging Professionals Chair, who works with the academic regional centers and is the connection to the emerging professionals who may not necessarily be going for their GRP, but are still part of group with us. I'd love to maybe later in the spring, if I could, invite you guys to just join one of our committee meetings and talk about this, and maybe some pathways we can take together, some things, that I may not even be aware of that some of the other team committees are working on, especially the regional academic center folks.
Okay.
The second thing I want to say too, before I forget, is that we have a, so as the GRP committee chair, I do all kinds of little things, like once a month we'll do something. One of the things that's for GRPs or people who are interested in it, one of the things that we do every year that we'll do probably in March or April is a virtual meeting called How to Be a Green Roofer. And anybody who's interested in green roofing, it's free, everybody welcome. And I just talk about the different career paths. What's the education necessary as far as designer, supplier? How much money could you make? How do you get those kinds of jobs? What kind of background do you need? What can help you? And so that's another resource too that, keep an eye on the greenroofs.org website, or I'll try to remember to reach out to you guys too. Anybody is welcome to join that, and it's free.
But what examples of do you see of industry demand for sustainability competencies, especially for those served by the credential or others?
I'm not. So there's sales is a good one. You don't need a huge amount of education. You just need personality and confidence. Sales of all different sides: roofing, waterproof, plants, components. There are so many sales roles associated with green roofing. So that is a really good one. And then, like you were just talking about on the students on the sustainable campus management, now not just green roofing, I'm talking about any sustainability product lines, photovoltaic panels. Sales is a huge part of all of it. Sales is usually to designers of the people who, going to architects and saying, here's what I have for your really cool projects. Have you considered this sustainability building envelope feature? For me, it's specifically the building envelope because that's what I know. There's also a lot of technical support needed. Chemists coming up with new roofing and waterproofing products that are more sustainable. There's a problem right now, specifically in waterproofing, that there's a lot of toxins in that stuff, and people are really trying to clean it up, and they need chemists who understand sustainable chemistry. And that's true for so many different sides of sustainability. Solar panels are darn toxic, trying to get those right. So chemistry is a big one for sustainability. There's also the environmental management side at the damage is done point, like the contaminated wetlands. My husband's an environmental scientist, and he goes to contaminated farms, orchards are some of the worst, arsenic, and creates plans on how we're going to clean it up. What are we going to do now? And what are the dangers? So there's a lot. And then an extension of the technical is the architects and engineering side of it, who are designing, passive buildings that are not going to be energy hogs. And then there's always maintenance of any of these things, whether it's solar panels, whether you're talking about anything, there's always roles in maintenance. And I think there are way too many people who have architecture and design degrees and are overeducated and overqualified, and there are not enough technicians. Just the plumbers, the HVAC, there's so many more roles for women now. All of those roles touch on sustainability by keeping things maintained. So it's not just the advanced degrees and designs.
That and in terms of demand, that presents a lot of clarity on the types of roles. Do you know of a source that would give us sort of numbers by country of anticipated positions in these different areas related to green roofs?
Well, Green Roofs for Healthy Cities, I don't know if they're still doing it. They used to do, this isn't really probably what you're talking about, but they used to do a thing where they would say, show the cities and how much green roof square footage there was.
Okay.
Internally, I've heard from when I was an employee for roofing manufacturers, they would do their big secret calculations trying to find where the next hot market was. And so I heard things like, green roofing is going to be $1 billion market in North America over the next 5 years.
Okay.
But that's everything: products, services, design. So I don't, that I can think of specifically. So the other thing that Green Roofs throughout these cities has, they would at least have their past examples of all the cities that have the most green roofing. And so you can just look at that and be like, oh, well, obviously,
There you go.
Washington, D.C., Portland, Chicago. So
That's super helpful. And, there are all these numbers out there. There's one estimate that says there's a gap of 85 million trained people between now and 2030 for jobs like this, not specifically in the green roof sector necessarily, but across sustainable ag, et cetera. And so that number may be low, it may be high, but the numbers really vary in the different fields. And I think they're calculated in a lot of different ways, but it's helpful to have some basis for the teachers to know, well, we're not guiding our students towards an area where there actually is no job for you.
yeah.
Really, there will be, your talent will be appreciated, and there will be opportunity for you. And maybe some of these students, the teachers can encourage them to become entrepreneurs and start their own business. We're not pushing that angle too much, but it is a very interesting one because some of the students are very entrepreneurially oriented. They initiate a project on campus. And we've seen this a few times, and they realize, there's a gap in the market. We could start a little business to, fulfill the demand.
There's a huge need for that. There are tons of major corporate manufacturers, green roof suppliers. The supplies are flooding the market. What they really need is to tie it all together. So like what I do, I'm a small business. I recognize that there's a ton of people who just need maybe an hour or two of help, and so I just started my own business to call me up and I'll, for 2 hours or whatever, or for project management. The other thing is there's a lot of things that are just small trades, like the green roof installer. A lot of people the roofers don't know how to do it. The landscapers don't know how to do it. Nobody wants to touch it. There's a need for installers, so many small business opportunities. Somebody has to clean the solar panels so they don't work. There needs to be, and it can't just be anybody. You have to understand about not getting electrocuted or falling off the roof. I mean, there is so much opportunity for very small local businesses. So I'm a huge fan of that as a person who is supporting myself right now. But the only thing about that is that you really need to get some experience under your belt before you branch out, because you can, really crash and burn. And actually, I'm hesitant to say that because a real entrepreneur is just going to do it and they'll crash and burn 100 times and then get it right. Myself included, my first go at being a consultant didn't work so well. I didn't make any money. And I had to go get hired at a company and then start again a few years later.
What advice do you have for high school teachers and college faculties about preparing their students with regenerative skill sets in your field?
Well, I would take it a real far step back. And my foundation of everything was being raised to really think about how I'm going to support myself. And not just support myself, but something I can feel good about. My parents, grew up in the 50s, where most women relied on men for their everything, right? And you can really get stuck in a bad situation. My parents always told me, we don't care what you do, but you need to figure out something where you can take care of yourself. You can be independent and you can look yourself in the mirror every morning and not hate life because you feel good about it. I think starting from that perspective puts so many other things in place, especially as a woman. My parents did not want me to ever have to rely on anyone or be stuck in a situation. So And knowing that I would face an uphill battle potentially getting into the types of roles that I wanted in what used to be only a male role, and not having money to pay for advanced degrees and not being a debt-minded family, you know? So I would say the first step, which is maybe a little too esoteric, but really doing soul searching on what you will feel good doing, what feels right to you, and how in the world are you going to support yourself without going into crippling debt to get there. So then the next step to really dial that in a little bit would be, I really wish there would be, like I had just said before in the last comment, I wish there would be more promotion and pride around trade associations, around those other, what's the word I'm looking for? Just go to trade school. It's okay. And then get your advanced college degree if you want. Feel really good. And by the way, make a lot of money by filling this gap. Plumbers, for example, we need plumbers for roofing. There's all kinds of plumbing on roofing. I mean, you can make a lot of money doing those trades. So I wish teachers would promote that more, and more of the professional accreditations rather than getting into a debt cycle with advanced degrees and then still having to kind of start from scratch. I'm not opposed to advanced degrees if you're going to be an engineer or a surgeon or academia, or you have the money, you know, or the scholarships. But I think most people on planet Earth don't have access to all of that and can get themselves into a debt cycle trying to get there. So I hope that answers the question.